Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our Leading Cyber Ladies session in November. Today, I have an amazing guest to share some experience, interesting topic, OSINT CTF. But before that, let me introduce you, if it's your first time, a little bit about Leading Cyber Ladies. So we are a global organization, a global professional network of women in cybersecurity. We support women's growth, new talent. We support by providing them with opportunity to talk and learn and network with each other. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Darren and Jen, who are our guest speakers today with their topic. I used to work with Jen for quite some years. I know Jen very well, and I've heard a lot of good things about Darren as well. So I'm very excited about this talk. I know Tracelabs. I remember when they just started their CTFs. It's a very interesting project, and I'm really looking forward for you to take it away. Before that, for the audience, please put your comment in the chat. We are monitoring the chat. If you have any questions, we will answer your questions, or if you just want to comment or something, please do so. We are happy to hear from you. With that, I will pass it over the stage to Jen and Darren.
All right, good afternoon.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. My name's Jen. And yeah, like Helen said, here with Darren, we're going to talk to you about our experiences with the Tracelabs OSINT CTF, particularly the one that we did in June together for the first time. I know Darren's done 2 since then, and I've done 1 since then with Darren and a couple other folks. So yeah, we've basically all in. Let's get started. Myself, I go by Angry Olive sometimes in security communities. I do application security. I'm a privacy and compliance nerd, and I'm an OSINT enthusiast, definitely very junior. Darren.
Hi, my name is Darren. I'm a security consultant. I have a company called hardBox Solutions. I have been involved in the Vancouver security community for many years. I'm one of the co-founders of Besides Vancouver here for the last 8 years, and founder of Vancouver Vancity Sec, which is a Vancouver security meetup that's been happening for 8 years also. And I like OSINT lots. So that introductions aside, I would like to tell you a little bit about the Tracelabs event that happened in June. Yeah. So a little bit about OSINT. Some of you might know what OSINT is, some of you might not know. But basically OSINT is open source intelligence, all types of intelligence that are drawn from publicly available info on the internet. So stuff your mom and grandma post on Facebook, stuff that, stuff that you can Google, you name it, all kinds of things. Things that are publicly available basically is what OSINT is. Tracelabs. Tracelabs is a nonprofit organization that was founded here in Vancouver. Its mission is to accelerate family reunification, missing persons while training members in tradecraft. Basically, what Tracelabs does is it runs these events, and all the information that's provided in these events is forwarded to law enforcement regarding real missing people. So real missing people that are actually missing across the world. And they basically hold CTFs every 2 to 3 months, and they have for the last 3 or 4 years. And they're a worldwide thing. There's approximately 600 people that are involved in them each event.
Yeah. So how does the Tracelabs CTF work? Basically, it's actually really easy to get involved. There's now a Discord channel, but you watch for an event to come up. You create an account on their platform. You can give yourself a team name, or you can join a team. The maximum for a team is 4. You want to join the intro call. A lot of people say, oh, sorry, I know what I'm doing, but the intro call actually is really a lot of really good info. It gives you an overview about the day. It will tell you how to communicate with your judges. It really reinforces the rules of engagement. particularly because we're looking for real life people. We really want to make sure that we play by the rules and we don't impact the victims or the victims' families and friends any more than they already have been by having someone they love go missing. At the kickoff, at the end of the kickoff, actually, when the clock kicks over to the top of the hour, all of the subject information will be released on the platform. You get your name, you get a little bit of information about them. So that could be a missing persons website, it could be a police report, it could be a Facebook profile. You get at least one link to make sure that you're actually searching for the right person, because there's lots of people with the same name. And then there's actually this slide we should probably update, Darren. It's now a Discord channel for helping communicating with your judge.
Mm-hmm. So a little more about how the Tracelabs CTF works. Typically, the events are scheduled for 6 hours, although the last event a couple weeks ago was 4 hours, but typically it's 6 hours. Now they have things, you basically are looking for flags, you're submitting flags through a Tracelabs interface that they have set up for the CTF. And I don't know, I'm not sure how many of you have been involved or in Capture the Flag or CTFs before, but there's all different types of them. But typically you're looking for a flag, you're looking for something related to get points for. And Tracelabs has a point system, which we'll show you in a little bit. We're going to talk about in the next couple of slides and talk about what they value least and most, sort of thing, for information. Through the Tracelabs CTF interface, you basically submit each of your flags on each people. So you're doing research and you're looking for information, whether it be their friends, other information about them, friends, family, photos, you name it, other social media accounts they might have had, phones, what type of phone they might have used, their phone provider, a phone number, landlord, all kinds of things. So you submit that evidence. Every team for the CTF has a judge, and the judges basically go over each of those submissions, and they basically submit say that give you points for them, or tell you why you're not going to give you points for them. Basically, when you're submitting a flag, you basically have to provide a couple different points of information, a link to that information that has to be publicly available. It can't be behind a paywall. It can't be a private pay search. It can't be something like that. It has to be publicly available. It can't be information that's been published already. So news stories, missing people, websites, that doesn't work. The police already know that information. So we don't want to, so that's nothing new. So you're not going to get points for that. At the end of the contest, as I was saying, all of the information, which is thousands and thousands of flags together from all of the teams, all gets submitted to law enforcement to help with the cases. And I think, as Jen mentioned in the last slide, there's a strict no contact rule. So passive OSINT recon only. No liking people's posts on Facebook, no sending friend requests, no doing password resets. All that stuff is pretty invasive. And whether you might be doing a password reset, and even if there's no information sent, when you get 600 teams working looking for 4 different people, and a bunch of them might be doing password resets, Twitter or whoever is going to know what's going on, and some of the families might be getting those password resets, and that's definitely not to be done.
Cool.
So yeah, that covers that slide. Let Jen talk about the scoring system a little bit here.
Sure. Yeah, I did see a question pop up. We'll get to how you submit the scores and the flags in a second. We actually got some screenshots for you. Back to the scoring system. So like we said, the lowest is for 10 points. So information on their friends, so name, aliases, birth date, home phone number, home address of their friends, social media handles. You really, submitting 600 Facebook friends of the subject is not permitted. That won't get you 6,000 points, but you will be required to prove why this friend is actually relevant to the case, and more than just like, oh, hey, add me on Facebook, random internet stranger. You actually have to prove that they're friends. Employment related to the subject itself is worth 15 points. So where they worked, their manager name, if they had a little button on their uniform that said something else, like they do sometimes at, Cineplex, the business address, phone, etc. Once you, for example, if you find out where the subject works, you can get a whole bunch of flags from that. So, their Google search for their IDs, you can do the business address, business phone, business email, any kind of social media handles that they have related to their employment, any kind of insightful information from their employer's comments.
Mm-hmm. The next section of points, which gets higher and higher. So family, basically any information about the family. So, names, aliases, birth dates, you name it, IDs, home addresses, home phone numbers, work addresses, all that type of stuff. Emails, social media handles. So mom's Facebook, dad's Facebook, grandma's Facebook. Grandmas and moms love to post all their kids' stuff, all the kids' birthdays, photos with the family, Christmas photos. Mom and grandma docs and give us more information about people we're looking for than anyone these days on Facebook and social media. If mom and grandma are on Facebook, that's the place to go first. When I start looking for somebody, that's the place. Even if somebody's not on Facebook, you go to mom and grandma and you start looking at their Facebook. And if you don't know, if they don't have a Facebook in their real name, you start looking at mom and grandma too. You start looking at the likes, you start looking at whoever, whoever's, liking stuff, whoever's grandma's talking about, mom's talking about, very much so. So home information, relevant information on the subject's home address, the landlord's name, recent accommodations if they're not at home, if they're couch surfing, other things like that. So stuff like sex offenders in the area, that all that information is fairly easy to get long as you have an address for your person. That's all pertinent information that can be submitted for points.
And then we start going into the basic subject info. So their name, obviously I don't think I've ever submitted a flag with the subject's name because they actually give you your name. Their IDs, passports, library cards, personal websites, dating websites, Craigslist, Kijiji, Reddit, Twitter, like any kind of social media stuff. Online resume. So if they've uploaded something to LinkedIn or to Workaday or wherever. Their physical description. The physical description can then also feed into the advanced subject info. So you've got unique identifiers, tattoos, piercings, scars, etc. Any medical issues, habits, smoking. One of the last subjects I was investigating on the last CTF that we did was a smoker, and she had a bunch of piercings. So that was worth a lot of points. And I got all of those just from Instagram, selfies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Previous missing persons history, if they've gone missing in the past, model, make, and carrier of cell phone, vehicle year, video game handles. A lot of people will actually use the same handle for every platform, every social platform they're on. So once you get their Twitter, there's a really good chance that that's also their Gmail, their Xbox Live, their PlayStation, possibly also their Tinder all the way down. Yeah. IP address is also considered advanced subject info, or any other info around where the subject might be headed.
Mm-hmm. So in addition to that, some of the most highest point things here on the scoring board here are day last seen, which is worth 500 points, which is and people do get points for these every contest. People get points for all three of these every contest, but day last seen basically. So pictures of the subject on the day last seen, CCTV, maybe a photo they posted on Instagram, maybe something like that. So details of the subject's last day seen. So mood, altercations, conversations with somebody else, anybody they were seen with, intent to meet with somebody else, direction of travel, details related to the day last seen, and depending on the case, you will find this information out there. Definitely there's a wealth of information. Dark web, so this has got to be information that's not available on clear web, so Tor sites, etc. And we have found there has been in contests quite often, each contest or every other contest, that there's information that is on the dark web about people. So maybe somebody's bought drugs and their username or there's a search that's come up on them that isn't available on clear web. Maybe it's a password breach, maybe it's something else. But that stuff does show up quite often on dark web, and it isn't available anywhere else. And then the highest of the points is location, 5,000 points. So relevant information pertaining to the current location of the subject. This can include, but not limited to, new information on location. So not including police updates saying the person was found or an obituary. This has, basically those ones are worth 150 points under advanced subject info. This has, I think a couple teams have gotten this in the past at contests, but it's not one that happens very often, of course. So those are the point systems. Those are how Tracelabs divvies up points for what you submit to them. And let's talk a little bit about the prep and what we go through for what we went through basically to get ready for this contest.
Yeah, so first thing you need to do is you need to get your tickets. Keep an eye on Tracelabs Twitter, or have a good friend like Darren who sends you a signal message and says, tickets are going to be on sale in an hour, get ready. They do sell out very, very quickly. I think the tickets with the OSINT training, the first time Darren was very quick and he got the OSINT training, I was very sad. I languished a little bit. The second one that we did in November together, I actually was able to get the OSINT training. So I think it's 3 to 5 hours of OSINT training. It's pretty interesting stuff. And then we set up a team. We're Boxed Olive, kind of a smish of our usernames. It's pretty easy setup. One person basically sets you up with the team and then sends the invite code. You can invite up to 3 of your friends.
Mm-hmm.
No more than 4.
Another note on tickets. The tickets are nominal. They're usually like $20 or something US, and it just goes to take care of the contest overhead, I think. But for instance, the DEF CON contest, the CTF, Tracelabs CTF at DEF CON, it sold out in 3 hours. The most recent one a couple of weeks ago sold out in a couple of days. There's typically 600 people or 650 people that take part in the contest every one they have. So they do go pretty quick. And some of our other prep. I've done a bunch of OSINT and do OSINT fairly regularly on a regular basis. So I have a system that's set up, and I have a lot of tools that I use. We'll talk a little bit about that. I have a share and I have a start page, and I'll have that it's available on the reference page at the end here also. But some of the things that we really like, I'll let Jen, we'll go back and forth here. I'll let Jen talk about her tools here, and I'll.
Sure. Yeah, I use search engines. So I started with the standard Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing, Michael Bazell. I've got his books, and I also used one of his tools. It's basically just an index.html page that I think, Darren, you sent me that one, but it's also referenced in one of his books. Mm-hmm. It used to be available online. You can actually type in your search term and hit go, and what it does is it fills in all of the search engines populated on that page, and then you end up getting about, I don't know, however many search engines were on that page. It will actually do the search for you, and then you get a bunch of tabs open on your browser. Mm-hmm. So I also looked pretty heavily at YouTube, Instagram, mostly just the alphabet sites, a little bit on TikTok, because one of my subjects actually had a couple of TikTok accounts. Darren was a big resource for me the last 2 times, and then just Sublime Text to keep track of all of my findings and sort of where I was and what I was thinking. This last time that we did it together we ended up using a mind map, which was able to be shared between 4 different people. I think that worked out pretty well. We were able to, because we had more people, we were actually really cognizant of the fact that we only had 4 hours, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing duplicate effort on the same flags. Mm-hmm. So we were able to just fire in all of the flags in the mind map, and I think that worked out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When me and Jen did this first CTF, we had a team of 2, but we recently did another CTF a couple of weeks ago, and we had a team of 4. And so the mind map worked really well for coordinating information. I use all kinds of tools, and I have a bunch of them on the reference page at the end here. But I also have a Start Me page that's linked here, and I can put a link in the chat in a little bit, and it is on the reference page at the end also. But it links to a whole bunch of tools that I use online regularly. I have all kinds of socks set up for OSINT, and we were like, what are socks? I'm like, yeah, everybody's got socks in their drawer, right? No, I got some socks in my drawer too. No, socks are alt accounts. So basically another account that's not in your real name that I use for research, that I use for doing OSINT. So for instance, I have a Twitter account that's it's under persona, and I have another Facebook account that's under a similar persona, and most of the social media accounts I have under like some type of persona, some type of account. So I can do research with those accounts, and that doesn't come up to, isn't under my real name, basically. So if I'm doing research, whether it's for a Tracelabs CTF or whether it's for other active investigation, they don't know that that hardBox Darren is doing an investigation on them. If they do happen to see anything, they know that some Joe whoever sock on on Twitter or Facebook happened to look at their profile, and that's a regular thing. And setting up socks to do like a lot of other Tracelabs is not it's not a bigger issue for us, to have a sock to do investigations, but other active investigations with OSINT, you would not want to be doing it all ever with your real personal social media accounts. It's just not really good at all. So but setting up socks does take some work. Facebook doesn't like fake accounts. No, they don't, and that's understandable. What else do we talk about here? Yeah, so we originally, for part of our setup, I set up a private Discord server, so just for our team, and that allowed us basically an interface where we had channels set up for each of the subjects that were missing. So typically there's 4 missing people for each contest, and so we set up a channel for each person, and as we got information, we could put it into the Discord channel, and so the other person knew what was going on if we went back and forth, and we could review each other's work. In the last contest, we used a mind map also, and that helped. We could pump information that we submitted really easily into a mind map, and then any of the other team members could see that. And we switched between team members. Each of our team members switched to a different missing person at some time in the contest, so that it allowed us to have a different set of eyes on the look at a missing person. And 4 hours of looking for one missing person, or 6 hours, is a lot of work and is pretty stressful. And you get to a point sometimes where you can't find more information, and having a fresh set of eyes, having someone else in your team look at a person is always a good way to find other things.
Yeah, switching around also, I found, really helps keep you objective, rather than getting sucked into the story, and it really helps you stay objective and look for the subject rather than getting super involved. So D-Day, contest day, was June 26th. We were up early that morning. There was a lot of coffee involved. Kickoff was at 8 a.m. CTF started at 9 a.m. I think the last one we did, the kickoff started at 9, and it started at 10 because it was only 4 hours rather than 6. We had 4 subjects to look for both times, and it was worldwide. So worldwide participation, meaning that there were folks all over the world participating, and then the subjects were also from all over the world. The first one, I think we had 1 from Canada, 2 from the States, and 1 from the UK. And the second one, I think we had 1 from Australia, and everybody else was from the States, weren't they?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just basically lots of searching, submitting flags. The time goes by really quickly, and it's very intense. It's a lot of brain work. I'm always surprised at how drained I am at the end of one of these.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a little bit with the interface here. So this is the Tracelabs capture the flag interface. This is basically how things look when you log in. You can see the 4 different missing people here. You can see this is a screenshot from 1 minute, 1 second left. So this is a screenshot at the end of our contest in June, and you can see how many we've submitted, how many have been rejected for flags for each person. And so basically there is the name of the person, which is omitted right here, where the city that they're in, the day, how long they've been missing for, And then underneath that, how many of our flags have been approved, how many have been rejected. And on the interface, it'll allow you to click on the plus at the bottom and show you more information about each. It will allow you to also, and I'll show you that. So if you click on the plus at the bottom there, it's going to show you information that you've submitted, basically, that your team submitted. You can get a little idea. And we had some questions. I saw a question in the chat about submitting and format. This is basically how it looks. These are flags that have been submitted. So you're going to submit a link. You're going to submit a little bit of information, the type of flag that it was, and maybe a screenshot. But definitely a link at least, and some information why you think it's pertinent and what it falls into. So these are things that you can see that were submitted, and I believe these were all approved, those ones there. So that's a little bit about the interface and how it works and how you submit flags. They also have, of course, a scoring section page that you can see scores. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things we learned from our first Tracelabs CTF, and probably a little more about what we've learned from some little bit more subsequent ones also.
Yeah, so my first CTF, I spent probably 3 hours out of 3 hours on one subject. And I really don't recommend doing that. I got very, very deep involved in that one, got really emotionally involved. You got burnout definitely happens. Your brain just kind of gets a little bit overloaded. It's harder to take breaks, I think, when you're in a time box like this and when you're competing. So yeah, I think the second one, I ended up getting up and getting away from the computer for 5-10 minutes at a time, and that definitely helped. Document everything. Man, I don't remember how many times I would be 57 tabs deep and then wonder how I got to where I was and how this was even still relevant to the case. So documenting everything. I'm still on the fence about using a screen recorder and a voiceover, but I do definitely think that a mind map was helpful. Yeah, take breaks regularly, and the emotional impact is real. The one gal that I spent 3 hours on the first one was a super sad case, and it was with me for about 3 days afterwards. It really, yeah, it can't be understated. Yeah, a lot of people change their mindset so that it's like a game rather than looking for real people. I don't know, maybe I'll try that the next time, but I don't know. It's it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, I'll echo that. It is tough. We're looking for real people, and it's not just it's not whoever that disappeared. Like, there's all kinds of really sad cases, and it definitely, I've been involved in 3 Tracelabs CTFs now, and there's always really hard cases every time. You're looking for people you're looking for girls that have disappeared, you're looking for boys that have disappeared, you're looking for really sad stuff. A lot of them, some of them there's no information out there, but every Tracelabs CTF I've been involved in, there's at least a couple of them that are really sad. They're not good circumstances that you're looking for, and you have to read through that stuff, and you have to wade through that stuff, and you don't have very much time, and it does, so self-care is important. Take a break, if you can during the contest, take 5 minutes, go stretch, walk around, whatever, get some coffee, whatever, just get up, go to your chair for a minute. It's tough, but yeah, checking in with your team during the contest is great. Also, checking in with your team after the contest, after you can actually relax, is also good, but go do something, get off the computer when you're done, take a break. Also some stuff we've learned from in the past is, so knowing the point system details is really important. So because it is a game and it is a CTF, and they gamify it in that way, that you need to, you need to know the point system. So like, for instance, know that a cell phone is advanced personal information. That's worth 150 points. If you see a photo of their cell phone on Instagram and it's an iPhone, and that, you can tell, of course, from the back, right? That's important information that law enforcement wants to know, that's pertinent, and that's worth 150 points. If you happen to find their phone number and you can do a phone number search and you know what carrier they're on, that's both those information things are worth 150 points. So knowing what is worth points is really important. Knowing that any good personal friends is worth 10 and 20 points or whatever is also important, because every contest, the top teams are submitting hundreds of flags. They're getting hundreds of flags. They're submitting hundreds and hundreds of flags. They're getting hundreds and hundreds of flags approved. You'll see, we'll show you some scoreboard stuff in a little while, and you'll see how many things are actually being submitted each contest. And it's thousands and thousands of things that are being submitted. So it is getting the information, knowing what they're worth, and then submitting them. As soon as you submit your first flag during the CTF, you get they assign a judge to you, and your judge is available usually over, well, it used to be Slack. Tracelabs has changed their platform to Discord just over the last month or so, month and a half, and so now it's over Discord. But we find it's very beneficial if you reach out to your judge after you submit, after you're assigned a judge. Reach out to them on Discord, set up a private chat with your team and them, so you can say, hello, this is us. If you got any questions about what we submitted, let us know. And if you have any questions about why something's been denied, a flag, then you can ask your judge and get some feedback from them. They're allowed to give you feedback on things, within reason, of course, and it is really important. And judges are, they're friendly, they're all volunteer. So it's, they're there, just doing things out of the kindness of their heart too. So it helps a lot though. So coordinating with your team members through both like before the contest and then during the contest is important. Like I said, we in the past have switched subjects every now and then. In the last one where we had 4 team members and 4 missing people, we switched. A couple of us went for 2 hours on the same person, then switched to other people. One person stayed on the same person the whole time because they were getting a lot of information. I had somebody that was in the UK. They were in Australia. And I couldn't get anything. I spent an hour just hitting my head against the wall. It was horrible. And I gave it to Jen, and Jen found some other information, which is great. But I went on to somebody else and I just rocked that out. I found a pile of information on the other person I changed to, and it was good to just switch things up. So that is important. And it's also important. So when you have a team of either 2 or 4, knowing what you've submitted already and not having to go look at the CTF, and knowing what you've, both researched and submitted is really important. So using some type of interface, and whether it be a mind map or our Discord server for our team, is really important. So when we switch subjects and I start looking at somebody else, I know that Jen or whoever has already submitted this flag, and I can go look at the channel and say, oh, look at all these links. She's already found these. She's already checked these articles out, or these links out, or done, found this home address or whatever. So I know that information. So I'm not redoing her work or whoever else on my team's work.
It also serves as a really good pivot point. So if I put down, if I link to Mom's Facebook, Darren can then go in and look for other things around like grandma or aunt and uncle, or relationships, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Tools. Darren, most of these tools are yours. Do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, no problem. So a bunch of the tools that I recommend here and are one of the ones I really like, one of my favorite tools to talk about, is Epios Mail Checker, and it allows you to put in an email address, and it queries Google, and it also queries some username searches. But you'll be surprised at how much information you can get. And try it sometime. You can look at these links, and we can post them in the chat or whatever in a minute too. But any email address can be linked to a Google account, as many of you know. Some of you might not know, but so even a Hotmail address or whatever can still be linked to Google services. So this is a really good first check. Once I have an email address, I go put it in here. It tells me a lot of information. It also gives me if they have a Google account, and for instance, and have they done any Google reviews or Google Map check-ins or anything like that. It allows, most of those things are public, and that's really easy. It provides a link to that. It provides a profile photo if they have one for Google. It's usually my first stop for email checking when I find an email address. My next favorite tool is, this is one of my favorite online username checkers. Once we have a username for a user, whether it be an Instagram name, or sometimes people will do a personalized Facebook name, and you can see that in the URL, and not just their real first name, last name sort of thing. They'll actually have a username. So when you have a username though, like as Jen mentioned earlier, a lot of people you're using their usernames, of course, because you don't probably want to be hardbox on Twitter and hardbox on Instagram too, right? So this username checker allows you to put in a username, and it checks about 320 social media and other sites, and it tells you where that username's been used, and it allows you to export that in all different formats. It also allows you to just click on a link and open it up and take a look and verify that it actually is your subject that you're looking for. This provides piles. Those two at the start provide piles of information right there. Spiderfoot is a Python tool that's installed. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next frame or two, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. The OSINT framework is a really good framework for just research tools and how to look at things. So basically, where to start and like the different format of what you can find in each social media type of platform and other places like that when you're looking for information. Multiple search engines. Jen was talking about Michael Basil's tool. Michael Basil has a great tool. It's just a web HTML files, but they're basically all separated up into different sections. So there's a phone number section, there's a username section, there's a name section, there's a IP address section. And for instance, on the phone number section, there is 25 search engines that will search phone numbers. And if you plug in one phone number at the top, it will populate all of them. And then you click search and it will open 25 tabs in each of those search engines. And it will show you the results for each of those 25 searches on that phone number. So automating some things like that works great. It helps a lot. Google dorking, just knowing how to Google somebody's name helps a lot. That's the first place I go when I got a subject. So I start looking, like put in their name, put in the city they're at, and start from there, right? But not just Google. Other search engines too. Varying. You get varying results from things. There's also some services that will allow you to do a search and will show you the different search results from different search engines, which is nice also. My search tools are
available on a Start Me page, which I will post the link to in the chat in a little bit. And last but not least, Twitter accounts. Tweetbeaver is awesome. Tweetbeaver is a free service that allows you to basically download, look at any type of username data for someone's Twitter account. It'll give you their Twitter ID. It will give you, it will also allow you to look at connections between two different Twitter accounts, or has a whole bunch, has about 15 different things available on their web interface. And it's one of my favorite tools. Okay, so Spiderfoot, I'll just talk really briefly about it. Spiderfoot is basically an open source tool written in Python. It's amazing. They keep adding more and more services to it. Some of them need APIs that you have to sign up for, but a lot of them don't. Yeah, I do use it. I have used it more during the contest. I did use a little bit and run some search queries on it, but mostly I use it for other investigations. I have, it does provide really good information, but it does, usually I'm doing a lot of Googling, and so a lot more. I find I haven't used it like in the last contest. I didn't use it as much. In the first contest, I did use it a bunch, and it did find good information. And as you'll see here, I had a username, and I actually tried some username stuff on my usual web username searches, and didn't find what I was looking for. But Spiderfoot found this username and found some great categories, found some great information for me that I wasn't getting anywhere else. And as you can see, you'll see they a Twitter profile, a Venmo, and a Cash App profile that it found for me. And this is the interface that after a search basically on Spiderfoot on the web interface. So it's Python and it runs in the backend. It has a web interface that you can use. Linux based typically. I'm not sure if probably OS X also, I assume. I'm not positive, but okay.
So
Yeah.
flags. Yeah, news stories are a really good source of information and places to start. Unfortunately, news stories are not usually admissible. But you can end up getting things like employment flags or family and friends, their names, their photos, their employments. You can do hobbies. I think one of the girls that I was looking for, she was posted on a news story with her Taekwondo uniform. And then, so we used that to figure out that, where it was. So her hobbies, which had other photos of her, and then her dad was an instructor. So it was just one photo that led to so many different flags. Multiple flag from one username, like Darren was saying, use the different search engines. Higher points flags, you can either go sort of death by 1,000 cuts, so like a whole bunch of friends, or you can look for the advanced subject info, the flags that are worth more points. The challenge though is remembering what flags are, like what you're actually looking for, and where what qualifies as a good flag. You know, you can look at a photo, but unless you've got those flags sort of front of mind, you might be missing a whole bunch of information. Expect to have some flags rejected. That happened a lot. That's fine. Be really super open with your judge. Talk to them. You know, sometimes they can give you nudges in the right direction. And then be like Ross, where you pivot. So like I said, a photo led to a crest, led to a website, led to a bunch of other photos, as well as father information. So yeah, pivoting is absolutely instrumental.
Yeah, very much so. I'm going to answer a couple of questions there. I see somebody, regardless of their technical skill set, able to participate in these CTF games. Definitely. We had somebody on our last team that definitely has, you know, had never done much CTF or any OSINT at all, really. And yeah, they definitely enjoyed themselves and did pretty well, and found a lot of information, actually. And I'm not sure, you know, Jen's done some in the past, but, you know, no CTFs, and, you know, she rocked it out. So I don't think you need much. I mean, you can read if you're interested in learning, like, about OSINT, and, you know, Tracelabs provides a lot of information on their website and on their Discord if you want to learn some OSINT stuff and some skills. But basically, you know, try some things out and see what you think. But it's, you know, you can be a team of one also. There's lots of people looking for team members also, every time there's a CTF. So if you're looking to you know, join up with some people that, you know, some newbies, and that's, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Definitely, you can have there also, though, there are people that are like professional OSINT people that are involved in the Tracelabs CTF every time too, and you can tell that's who's a lot. You know, they definitely have, you know, this is not new to them, right? So yeah, any type of, you know, as long as if you have some technical skills, like, I think that, you know, any type of you can be involved, definitely. And I saw another question there. What are the main challenges when querying intelligence data about missing people? And I'm not quite sure what you mean about intelligence data, but I'm gonna guess that, well, so I'm gonna go back to my thing about you have to use publicly accessible data. So for this contest, you can't be using any paid sites. So for instance, I have access to background search sites and stuff like that. I have access to other paid searches like Dhash and things like that. You can't use that for this contest. You can't, because it has to be publicly available. It can't be behind a paywall of any kind. So if it's a paid search site or intelligence or a police search site, we can't be using those. We won't be using those, and you can't submit them as flags for this contest.
Yeah, even paid news sites, you can't. It, like Wall Street Journal or whatever, that's all quite frequently behind a paywall. You can't use that. But what you can do is you can use the information that you find there to do better crafted searches to find flags that are publicly available.
Yeah, they basically pivot from there. If you know something's available privately, that it's quite possibly available other places, and so starting to go from there and looking other places, definitely. If you had some other questions regarding, if I didn't answer that correctly, please drop something else in the chat and I can answer better for you. We're going to show you a little more about how things end up. This is our contest in June. The end of our contest there was 425 contestants, 240 teams, 100 judges, 4 cases, 4 missing people, and these are the final point scores, basically. So as you can see, the top team there, they had 149 submissions and 10,000 points. So there's a lot of submissions, and these are submissions that were approved. So their overall submissions were probably a lot higher than that. Right, as you can see there, that's how things were at the end there. We placed a little bit more of this. So a little bit more about stats for that OSINT in June. Basically, there was 7,021 submissions processed from everybody. There was 1,979 submissions rejected and 5,042 submissions accepted. 19 of those were about home, 1,600 about family, 73 about employment, 951 about friends, 0 from the dark web, 90 last day seen, which is that's one of the bigger ones there. So a lot of them, there's 90 different submissions that were accepted regarding last day seen, advanced subject information, and then basic subject info. So that's sort of a synopsis of what was the end of the contest. And all this information, of course, is submitted to law enforcement, as we mentioned earlier. So it's a lot of data from a lot of researchers. These are some of the prizes that they do offer, that Tracelabs CTF offers. Basically, a lot of, some good, really nice training packages, some other punch the licenses, which is an OSINT tool. Spiderfoot license for their paid version. Fusion Intelligence, some pretty fun tools actually that are, some good, it always has good sponsors, which is really nice. And there, Jen.
Yeah, this was our first OSINT CTF, and the two of us submitted, I think we submitted more than 29 flags, but we had 29 of them accepted, and our score was 1910. We placed 37th, I think, out of 200 and change teams.
225, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know, I'm pretty happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
The one that we did with 4 people, I think we placed 50th out of 200 again. So, but got a lot more points. So you can tell that the one in November that we did was a little bit more challenging and definitely more competitive. So, yeah, I think actually the person that won second in the CTF from June actually won the one in November.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne the Sock Johnson. I love that name.
Yeah, it's interesting that from the 3 that I've participated in now, I did one by myself and I actually placed about 30 also with a lot more points just by myself, which was interesting. And then doing the last one with 4 team members was very interesting just for the coordination between the team, but we submitted a lot more and got a lot more points. We were actually number 1 for a little while. And then we had a flag taken away from us, unfortunately, which was fine. But we ended up about 30, I think, no, 49 or 50 out of 250 teams or so altogether, with a lot more points though. So yeah, so that's how things ended up. Definitely overall, it was a really good experience. I would do it again. I definitely recommend it to people. It was interesting to try it with 4 people who like that lots. It was, definitely takes more coordination, but if you're trying to win the CTF, it's definitely the way to do it. A team of 1 or 2 is not going to get anywhere near the top, right? Yeah, but overall, definitely, I loved the Tracelabs CTF experience and definitely recommend it to anybody, beginner or advanced. Check it out and see what you think. Yeah. So resources is what we have left here is our last slide, and I'll leave that up, and we can copy and paste that into the chat if people would like also. And these are some of the things that we talked about, information on Search Party and Tracelabs and how to get involved. Michael Basil's link to his Intel techniques. He still has an OSINT book, which is now in volume 8, and soon to be released one more edition in hardcover for institutions. My Start Me page, which has got 200 or 300 links to it, all divided by section to different subjects for OSINT tools. The OSINT framework, which I talked about a little bit earlier. The SANS blog, which has got great resources for OSINT research and investigation. The Tracelabs Search Party CTF write-ups, which are amazing. So if you want to get involved in a Tracelabs CTF, take a look at some of these write-ups, because a lot of good teams have written write-ups about CTF, their CTF experiences. So like us, like these slides and these talks, a lot of people have done write-ups, and reading those is just great information to just see what other people have done and how they've set things up and how they coordinate their team, and how they've looked for points and what's worked for them and what hasn't. And then the OSINT map is another research tool on basically how to look for and how to pivot from different information for OSINT resources. So that's our talk today.
That's it. That's all we got.
Thank you, Darren and Jen. That's amazing. That's such a coverage of information. There is a question in the chat. Somebody is asking to drop the links. If you can copy paste in the chat, that would be great. But I totally reflect on the challenge, I would say, the challenge of actually reviewing the cases, the real cases of missing people, right? Have you ever heard any feedback from the enforcement, from the police, if somebody was actually found, or any clues like to give resolution to your case?
Nothing formal. There was, I'll be really super vague about this on purpose, but one of the subjects that we looked for in one of the CTFs that we participated in, towards the end of the competition, it was very evident that he had been found deceased. And it was very recent. There were no news posts, there was no police posts. I think it was a family member posting about it. And that was really sad. That was really sad. But aside from that, you don't get any kind of feedback from Tracelabs or from law enforcement or anything like that. You just sort of pack it all up and send it all off, and hopefully the right investigator gets the information, and that can help their search for the missing person.
Mhm. Yeah, I have heard that at least one person has been found after the fact, but I don't know, that's not, they don't typically give us updates. They typically, the Discord channel for the Tracelabs CTF is typically erased after about 48 hours. They ask people not to discuss, the items, publicly or privately, of course, because they are real ongoing investigations. And so, similar to other investigations, that this is a real investigation that, even though you're not a law enforcement officer, you're providing information on real life cases. And so, no, they don't provide us any information, and that's probably good. Yeah, there's a lot of sad stuff. I know we've touched on that some, but there are, yes, it's, it can be tough. Definitely. It is good work, but it's, there's definitely,
And what would be your recommendation for people who would like maybe to try it first time? I mean, mentally, right? We already talked about tools and there's a lot of resources, but mentally, how do you prepare for that?
That's a good question.
Get yourself a puppy or two. Puppy snuggles are good.
Yeah, mentally before the fact, I think things are fine. Like, definitely spend some time playing with your tools. Mentally after the fact, unplug, take a break, go for a walk, get out, go watch a movie, get off the darn computer. Really stop thinking about the case if you can. Don't be on chat for the next 48 hours reviewing like what everybody else has found and you haven't found, because you can do that. And they're not all sad. No, I'm not saying they are. They're definitely not. Definitely a lot of them you don't know what's going on at all. And there's nothing, that's just the way it is. But there's definitely every case, every contest, there are sad cases. And so unplugging from that, unplugging from your computer and doing something else is, a good, go for a walk, get some fresh air, exactly. Get some puppies. Yeah.
Yep. Puppies, that's great. Maybe last question from my side. When you looking for these people, when you're given an assignment, are they all in the area where Tracelab workshop is happening, or they're globally, can be anywhere?
They're global. So the contestants for the Tracelabs CTF are worldwide, and the missing people are worldwide also, which is interesting. And that's a great question, Helen, because mostly OSINT work I'm doing is for North American people, and that's the work I've done in the past. So I have a lot of experience trying to find people in North America and looking them up. But in the contest, so there's been both people in Australia and England in the last 3 that I've been involved in, and the search services are very different. Also for Canada, we have a lot of privacy laws. You can't find people as easily in Canada as you can in the United States. So yeah, so there are people from all over the world, and it definitely varies in the tools you need and what you use for resources to try and find them. Definitely.
And that probably you're facing some regulatory barriers, right? In certain countries, you cannot use specific tools to search for people. Like you mentioned privacy law in Canada, but if we look, for example, I don't know if you ever look for anybody in China or maybe some other country who have stricter laws.
Yes.
That could be a challenge.
It can be, yes, definitely regulatorily. I was in one of our last contests, I was looking for somebody with an Asian last name in Australia, and it was very, very difficult.
Great. Well, you answered all the questions in the chat and you answered my questions. I want to thank you so much for joining our session, Leading Cyber Ladies today. The information is great. I think our audience has now a great idea of what is Tracelabs and CTF and how to get involved and what you need to do. And actually, this is a great cause that you're learning cybersecurity, you're learning like hacking techniques with the great cause of finding people. I really like this project. So thank you so much for your time today. And I hope we'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Helen. Have a good day.
Thank you for having us. Have a good one.
Thank you.